Hello folks, welcome again to another free tutorial of Scoring Tools Masterclass. This is the fourth and last episode of the series Taking Your Strings to the Next Level, where I show you how to improve your string realism by using the new sample modeling strings. In the first episode, we've worked on the Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. On the second one, there was the Symphony No. 40 by Mozart. In the third one, we went to film music by featuring the Gladiator score by Hans Zimmer. Now, in this last tutorial, it's time to study another film music. The Lord of the Rings score has a very diverse string writing. I have selected some key passages of the entire trilogy and made a small suite where there is a predominance of strings. But before going ahead on the tutorial, I urge you to listen to the mock-up of the suite first. If you haven't done so yet, just click on the first link down below in the description of this video. There you will have access to the full mock-up suite. Okay, now that you have heard the full mock-up, let's go to the first tip. And I would like to start by showing you the violins, the famous phrase violin that begins the score. Let's have a listen to Violins 1 first. Okay, good. As you can see, there's these big mountains going up and down. But they start from very low, over 15. Right here in the beginning, it must be over what? 21? And right here in the release of the note, around 8 or 10. And it goes up to 90. Going to 90, the same thing here, and the same thing repeats here. It goes on and on until it gets a little bit different here. Okay, one of the most common mistakes I see in mockups is that the programmers usually program something like this. Pay attention that I haven't only increased the amount of dynamic here, but there's less peak in this mountain. A lot of composers have the belief that doing this, everything will be heard. But actually, if you go back to the original, this very low dynamic here will always be heard, because in the texture, there's nothing else playing along with the violins in the same region. So every kind of dynamic, even in the lowest one over here, would be easily heard. So the first tip is, never be afraid of going down with your dynamics, and sometimes even up. Let's have a listen on how it sounds with this very low dynamics attack and release. However, if we do something like this, exaggeration, let's hear how it sounds. Too much. The attack was not bad at all, but depending on the library, it will respond differently. The release was kind of static. And here in the middle, it was too much. Too much dynamic for something that is simple is a common mistake that I see in many mock-ups. And also, never forget that you have to analyze the phrase. And by analyzing the phrase, you have to determine the contour of the phrase plus what is the climax of it. In this case, the climax is this note. This note is the climax of the other phrase, actually just the attack, then you have to go down. This is the climax of the phrase. And here, again, it repeats again. So by analyzing the phrase, you determine where the peak of the mountain should be. Over here, I have the violins 1 doubled with 1 sample modeling solo violin. And as you can see, the midi is not just a copy and paste, they are not both equal. There's a little bit of difference in the dynamic plus velocity and all the other parameters that I have used for the ensemble and the solo. More about this will be available in the full tutorial of Scoring Tools Masterclass. Now, going down to the low strings, let's have a listen only to the cellos and basses. On this orchestration, the low strings don't stand by itself, so it sounds a little bit hollow. But actually, with the other sections, woodwinds and brass, they make total sense. Let's have a listen to low strings only. All right, let's go to the cellos only and see what's happening. Okay, as we have seen in the violins, the cellos also come from almost from 0, going to 65, 34, 63, 28, and then it goes up a little because these two notes sound like a counter melody. Look at this mountain. Can you see how steep it is? It goes very high, up to 80, and then it goes down to 0. You don't have to be afraid of doing such things when you want expression on slow tempos. The same thing happens in the double bass. Even more in the double bass. It goes to 98 and in only one single beat it goes down to 0, from 98 to 0. Let's have a listen only to the basses. Of course, some libraries will respond differently to these parameters, but I believe it's very hard to simulate those kind of expressions with crossfade from the normal sample libraries. Okay, for the next topic, I would like to do a little test with you. I'm gonna play a couple of chords and you let me know which instrument is this. Let's go. Was it easy? Not so easy? Did you find out which instrument is this? Once again. Okay, um, some of you must have already realized which instrument is this and how it is modified. Actually, this is a piano, and it doesn't sound as a piano because the attack of the note have been cut off. Now, the same couple of chords with the original attack of a piano. So by doing this little experiment, we can realize how important the attack is for any timbre. Actually, our first kind of recognition of any timbre is the attack. Of course, the body of the sound is important, but I believe the attack is even more important for the recognition of the instrument. Now, going to the solo violin. Let's have a listen to the solo violin that Howard Shore wrote for Lord of the Rings. All right. Very simple writing, but not so simple to program a realistic mockup. Now, going to the velocities. You see that most of the velocities are very high, and many of them are in 127. That represents the red color. Okay, you may think that this solo violin is too harsh. This is the way I program. This is my own interpretation to this phrase. But actually, if we lower the velocities, it will sound gentle. Okay, what about if we put them even lower? You're gonna see that some adaptations must be done. But let's have a listen out of the box in the original programming that I have made. Okay, just for the sake of comparison, let's go back to the original and see how it sounds. Pay attention to the attacks. Smoothing the attacks. Let's put them down. This is a kind of programming that provides you a versatility that few other libraries have. And what I like is that since this is a solo violin, there's a lot of exposure in it, and every tiny little change that you make on every note will make a difference in the overall sound. Have in mind that with performance libraries like sample modeling strings, you are not bound to the limitations of each library. Actually, you can make your own interpretation. Now, going to the last part. Here is the ending phrase where there's the big tutti. Let's have a listen only to the violas, violins 1 and 2. There's a kind of nervous and very firm fortissimo vibrato in this phrase, and I don't think it should be interpreted otherwise, but let's see violins 1 only. Here's the modulation that controls dynamic. This is a fortissimo phrase. Actually, the conductor would require from the players to play as loud as possible in this part. But as you can see, in mockups and in real life too, playing as loud as possible doesn't mean that you should strike or hit or put your velocity to 127, always the hardest one. If you want to have some expression on fortissimos, you have to have room for ups and downs. And this is what I have given to this phrase. Let's have a listen to only violins 1 and see how they sound and in the strongest fortissimo. It's truly evident in these 3 last notes that you have to have a certain attack plus a decay to have the accentuation of those notes. And right here, there's a small crescendo in the last half of the beat. Now, let's suppose that I have programmed something like this. Does it lose expression? It certainly does, and it's more evident in some notes than the others, but in the overall sound, it's really way less expressive than this one. Therefore, keep in mind that in order to have expression, you have to take out some volume. Now, again, like in the other tutorial, there's this non-reg MSB, which is CC99, that controls expressive vibrato. This is the original programming with a lot of expressive vibrato, as you can see 119. Let's see what happens if we put them down back to 12. The vibrato becomes much more straight. Actually, the vibrato, as we know, is being controlled by breath controller CC2, which is right here. And again, the same procedure, not everything 127. You don't have to put them to the maximum. Take care of those things and you're good to go. But the combination with expressive vibrato makes it sound like the nervous vibrato. Alright folks, that's it. It is absolutely essential for every musician to know how to produce MIDI mockups today. And I hope these free tutorials have helped you to become a better composer. Scoring Tools Masterclass has everything that I have learned during the last 16 years or so. New musical technologies are always being developed, and the course is always tuned to them. However, the essence of the course is not to teach you how to use the libraries. The approach is to create in you the right mindset that can be applied to any product on the market. In these 4 episodes of Taking Our Strings to the Next Level, we have been concentrated solely on the sample modeling strings. Some of the things discussed are peculiar to this library, And I thought they were important to mention because this library came out and I realized that a lot of its potential was not being used by other composers. However, all the other topics were part of the many principles taught in Scoring Tools Masterclass. I hope you have liked the 4 episodes of Taking Your Strings to the Next Level. More free tutorials are coming soon. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and please give a like and a comment to this video because it helps me to produce more of these for you. Don't forget to check the links down below in the description and see you soon. Bye!